This is our special Monday Night Football edition, and good evening, Rudy, from across the country.
Hey, what's going on? How are you? Everybody can follow us at Take No Punches. I'm doing good. How's everything going on your end, Scott?
I don't know. Ask me at the end of the night when the Lions take on the Green Bay Packers and Matthew Stafford does better than Aaron Rodgers, and I'll answer that question another night.
Maybe tonight, hopefully Matthew Stafford will answer your own question as to whether or not he's ready to take on the challenge.
He's got Kenny Holiday, and the beat goes on. So anyways, now that we're talking about the Monday Night Football game, Rudy, the Lions against the Green Bay. The Lions have won 4 in a row versus Green Bay for the first time since 1982 and 83. Last season, Detroit drubbed the Packers 31-0 in a season-ending finale. This is Detroit's only Monday night game, and Aaron Rodgers is not in sync with his passing under new coach Matt LaFleur. With that said, Detroit has won 3 of the last 4 at Green Bay, ending a 24-game losing streak in the series in 2015. So how does that set up, Rudy?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I look at this. You were talking about Matt LaFleur and how Aaron Rodgers and him may or may not have been on the same page thus far this season. But to be quite honest with you, he hasn't had to do those Aaron Rodgers type of throws. He hasn't been able to throw it downfield. I don't think he really needs to. You're relying on the defense. The defense has been winning it for them up to this point, just like we seen last night, witness with Devin Bush, first-year starter for the Steelers, going in, taking it to the house. So defense can win championships, but right now I look at Aaron Rodgers and what he has and has not been doing. To be quite honest with you, I think Aaron Rodgers is still one of those elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And not to take anything away from this quarterback matchup with Matthew Stafford, because they absolutely balled out against Kansas City, who lost yesterday, I might add, at home against the Texans. But I do like the Lions in this matchup. And to be quite honest with you, it's going to be a close one. I know historically it's been kind of a teeter-totter at times throughout the years. But because this is the Lions' first Monday night appearance, I think they're going to make it a good one. But I'm still taking Green Bay at home. Again, as we had mentioned, no Devontae Adams. We're going to have to find out who and when and how Aaron Rodgers is going to get that ball downfield and maybe open things up tonight, seeing some passes longer than 20 yards that are actually completed. Right now, Lions are 2-1-1, and at this point in the season, they've had an extra week of rest. They should be ready to go, especially for Monday Night Football, and the Packers are 4-1 atop of the NFC North. So one would probably suspect that the Packers, the Matt LaFleur-led offense, defense as far as running is concerned, has not been the best, has not been what you would expect. And, of course, they're dealing with injuries as well. Then again, at this time during the season, who isn't? Steelers lost Stephon Tuitt with a pectoral tear. So Green Bay is really going to have to step it up and show different looks defensively in order to get to Matthew Stafford and force him out of some pretty decent throws he's made up to this point in the season.
So then my question to you is this. Do you see this as a high-scoring affair?
I'm going to probably take this as a 27-24 game, and I got to go with the Packers. They're at home. Defense is playing absolutely lights out. They are 4-1. They have a solid record on Monday Night Football. You can't go wrong with picking the Pack.
Well, it's amazing, too. The Lions can sit here and play the Rodney Dangerfield card that they don't get any respect. And Matt Patricia's the type of guy that's actually learning how to be a head coach. And I like some of his motivational speeches where, hey, guys, we use it all in the tank. We got to get it back in the tank. And you know what? This group is buying into that philosophy. So the sophomore coach obviously learning. Well, I think he'll be around with the Lions for a long time. I don't know. Time will tell. But, a 27-24 game would certainly be an entertaining game. And I think that ESPN has definitely been looking forward to this game for quite a long time with these two long-standing rivalries, Detroit, Green Bay. And, in case the Lions don't win this game, they play on my birthday, my 57th birthday at the end of the year. And let me point out another thing. The last time the Detroit Lions won a championship at all was in 1957 on my birthday. Boy, how about some interesting numbers there, Rudy?
Imagine that. Maybe you'll get a birthday wish this year. Then again, I wouldn't blow out the candles too soon on Matthew Stafford. You were talking about the coaching position, of course. A very infamous coach from the New England Patriots coming over in his second year. he's not the only one, and I don't believe he's on a hot seat. And to be quite honest with you, not to suggest the Lions have not gone through their share of head coaches, they have. But when you look at what he's done, he's trying to put something together here. Whereas teams like the Washington Redskins fired Jay Gruden, Callahan now taking over as the head coach there. Doug Marrone's on the hot seat for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who a complete opposite night and day type situation on both sides of the ball. Almost, I would say almost in all three phases there in Jacksonville, and Doug Marrone being probably one of those guys that could be out by the end of the year, despite last year's 2018 AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots. But I think the most, and I think probably the most underspoken coach who is going to be on the hot seat, who it should be already, is Dan Quinn of the Atlanta Falcons. They have completely gone bass-ackwards. Bass-ackwards. Everybody can follow the show at Take No Punches. Follow us on Twitter. Give us a shout. If you like the show, spread the word. We love that. That's at Take No Punches. Rudy Reyes here with Scott Morganroth, MotorMan and RudeDog. But I like Dan Quinn being out by the end of the year. And, of course, ownership is always kind of iffy as to whether or not they're going to get rid of him by probably after next week, I would suspect. But right now, combined 15-33 record for Dan Quinn there in Atlanta.
Okay. Let me go over a couple things, okay? And I have other things that I think that I'm on board with you as well. But as far as the Lions and the Packers, staying on that for a moment, I think Matt Patricia, believe it or not, if they see any kind of good improvement, with the players that Bob Quinn is surrounding with himself with, without a doubt, I think could solidify. Now you talked about the Jacksonville situation. I was up there yesterday against the New Orleans Saints, and you know what? I will tell you this right now. And I won't say this at a press conference because I'm not a front office guy. But I could not agree with you more that Doug Marrone is on the hot seat. Let me preface this by saying this, okay, Rudy? We need to do better as coaches, to coach better. Really, Doug? Really? We need to make sure we're playing on all three levels better. Really, Doug? Okay. But here's the telltale story with that the Jacksonville Jaguars must, let me get a little bit louder, or you think that's good enough, okay? They take on the Cincinnati Bengals next Sunday and the New York Jets, two teams that are combined 1-10. And if they don't get to at least 500, that seat can get hot. It got boiling hot because you have to win those two games just to at least continue the year going. I would find it hard to believe, although they've done it before, when they let Gus Bradley go and Marrone took over the position. But there's no question that's one of the hottest seats out there for sure. I give you that.
Yeah,
13-6.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder how. And again, you could probably ask that question throughout NFL history. How can teams wait this long? There's been a lot of rumors about Mike Tomlin coming over and coaching in D.C. And I'm kind of here to set the record straight. I've covered the Steelers for at least 6 years, and what I know of the organization from different aspects, different players I've spoken with, this organization, and historically have only had 3 coaches, so let me just preface with that statement. So this whole ideal of the Steelers going to get, 2 number 1 draft picks for Mike Tomlin, or this, look, I'm here to quash it. It's not going to happen. I'm telling you now, book it, sign it, mail it, whatever you got to do, overnight it. It's not going to happen. Mike Tomlin's there to stay. How many losing seasons with Coach Bill Cowher? How many losing seasons, and hardly any, with the great Chuck Noll? Look, the bottom line is this organization is not in the habit of turning coaches over. I've had this conversation over and over again on Facebook, on Twitter, and of course those that don't know, that don't follow, and they're just fans that don't really follow organizational aspects and dynamics, would know right off the bat, if they were to join the other side, which is broadcast media side, to know that an organization like the Steelers is not just going to give up on Mike Tomlin because the Steelers are now 2-4. And I might add that yesterday was a first start and first win for Delvin Hodges, duck caller, as I like to call him, literally, who did an absolute fantastic job, whereas teams in the other AFC North, with all this hype, and I want to touch this other topic as well, Freddie Kitchens is trying to throw in not only the sink, the stove, the oven, the fridge, anything to help get him off of this this misuse of Baker Mayfield. Of course, Baker's done his own regression, but at the same token, there's no consistency in any phase. We seen it yesterday with the Dallas Cowboys, teams walking off the field,
Right.
not giving Jason Garrett a little high five or a handshake or anything. I think Jason Garrett's on the hot seat too, but I think that his is a little bit less hot, kind of like on the lukewarm side versus other teams like Doug Marrone. So it just goes to show that for those that don't know an organization from that standpoint, you're not going to let a coach like Mike Tomlin go.
Okay, I'm going to go over some games one by one, okay? And I'll give you some things that stand out. You counter, and then I'll get into the coaching carousel afterwards. How's that sound, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, New Orleans 13, Jacksonville 6. Teddy Bridgewater, to me, is auditioning for a number one job in 2020. Considering there's so many quarterback openings that will be next year, I could definitely see that Bridgewater holding the fort for Breeze. That was a wise move from the state of New Orleans. What are your thoughts about that?
He continues winning over and over and over again. He's a different style quarterback. He's not Drew Brees, but I think that if the Saints continue playing the way they've been playing, and as long as Bridgewater keeps making those types of plays, I really foresee this Saints offense as well as the defense. Of course, nobody wants to really want to talk about the defense, but the defense has been keeping them in games all season long, even with or without Drew Brees. So I think that overall, you stick with what's working. You don't deviate from it. And of course, nobody knows better than head coach Sean Payton.
Okay. Washington against Miami. Everybody will call it the Tank Bowl, but the Redskins get their first win under Bill Callahan nonetheless. So Dolphins with a failed 2-point conversion, and they're getting closer to 0-16, considering they were once 17-0. Boy, that's a little rough for the fish.
That's not only rough for the fish, but I think I heard somebody say mahi is on the menu, because right now you have a ton of fish out of water, and some of those are on skewers, and one of those is Adam Gase, who is an absolute horrible coach. I'm going to go on record as saying that, because when you come from the Jets and you're barely 500, and I'm probably giving that credit to come over and do the same exact thing with bunk play calling offensively, he's done. He's absolutely done. And to be quite honest with you, there's going to be a lot of coaching turnover, as there should be if you're in Miami. Redskins, this was a fish tank bowl. I mean, there's absolutely no way that the Redskins, even though with one win on their record, is going to suggest that Bill Callahan was the sole maker of this one win in the column, because it wasn't. It was about execution, the least amount of mistakes, and that's exactly what the Redskins did. And, of course, had that been a successful 2-point conversion, and I don't think either Rosen or Fitzpatrick is the quarterback of the future there, but in Miami. But I like what I'm seeing. It's just a question of whether or not they start Dwayne Haskins at some point during the season to maybe save a game or two, so they don't go far down to the bin.
Now, one of my favorite foods, though, I will tell you, is tuna fish, but it looks like Tua will be a fish next year. Had to get that one in there. Okay. So,
I like that. That's
good. Let's go on to London, since the Green Bay Packers will never give up a home game there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers know in order to get a Super Bowl, they have to play in London. And yesterday, the Buccaneers and quarterback Jameis Winston were in a very giving mood, to the point that Jameis Winston had 5 interceptions. In Carolina, the Panthers, their head Panther, Christian McCaffrey, was more than happily to take the 2 touchdowns he ended up getting because of this whole Tampa Bay fiasco. So let's talk about Jameis Winston, 5 interceptions. We all know that Christian McCaffrey is a stud.
Christian McCaffrey has been a stud. That guy is a playmaker from the word go. He can do flips and turnstiles. He could probably be in the next Amanda Biles in the Olympics with all that athleticism. But I think more importantly, he's just becoming that much better and a very dynamic player, to say the very least. On the other side of the ball, you're talking about Jameis Winston. I think those W's are actually forming and metamorphosizing into L's, because they keep losing the ball with all of those turnovers. Of course, Bruce Arians brought in to help change the dynamic, change the culture, and hopefully be that quarterback whisperer that he meant so much to guys like Kurt Warner and a slew of Hall of Famers. Just can't get it done with Jameis Winston, and that's not Bruce Arians' fault. Let me put that on the record as well. That has everything to do with Jameis Winston not reading the defense, not understanding checkdowns, not knowing when to tuck and run. It's just he's a fundamentally horrible quarterback. horrible. Fantasy points, that's one thing. Reality points is another. I think Jameis Winston is probably out of Tampa Bay as of 2020.
So that leads me to my next question, okay?